a very young boy had math classes. He was very intelligent, smart, a good student, a bit shy perhaps, but of a light, friendly nature. Despite his early maturity and brilliant intellect, he went unnoticed. With 6 minutes left before the end of the class, he was bored taking notes. The teacher wasn't saying anything he didn't already know, and in his distraction, he looked out the window. His desk was near the classroom window, and something caught his attention, a crumpled piece of paper on the grass near a tree. When class ended, the boy grabbed his bag and quickly went outside, hoping no one else would find the mysterious object he had seen. He succeeded, picked it up, and saw that inside the folded paper was the face of the most beautiful girl he had ever seen around his own age. She had lovely eyes and was making a peace sign with her left hand. The boy began to ask reasonable questions. His mind was no longer occupied with Pokemon, Xbox, PlayStation, or the internet. The girl in. The photo consumed all his thoughts, so much so that the next day, with the photo in hand and hoping there was a reason he found it on school grounds, he started asking his classmates if they had seen this girl. They all said no. Driven by desperation, he even asked teachers he had never spoken to outside of class. "Sir, do you know this girl?" "Teacher, do you know this girl?" Everyone said no.
No.
The boy was devastated. Finding that photo of a girl his age at school seemed like more than just a coincidence. That night, after spending many hours thinking about the girl, he woke up in the middle of the night due to some laughter. The laughter of childhood. The boy was very frightened, so much so that he stayed wrapped up to his chin and did not get up. The next day, when he woke up with many things on his mind, it was impossible not to connect one thing with another. What happened last night with the photo of the girl, was it a coincidence? He didn't think so. The laughter was from a girl. The obsession was overwhelming. With the photo in hand, he asked his sister, "By any chance, have you seen this girl?" "No." The boy then went and knocked on the doors of the neighbors' houses, asking, "Have you seen this girl?" "No." The search became increasingly pathetic because it was improbable, but he was obsessed and in love with the girl in the photo. It was a very sad day for him, so he went to bed, and again, in the middle of the night, he was awakened by the laughter. He thought, could it be her? He was terrified, but perhaps a little less so. And here, at this human crossroads, where fear meets obsession and obsession wins, the boy got out of bed and looked out the window. Although he didn't know exactly where the laughter was coming from, one thing was certain: it was coming from outside. He looked and heard the laughter a bit louder. Deciding to confront the unknown, he quietly went down the stairs so as not to wake his parents, opened the front door with his keys, and a W, as cold. He heard the laughter again, now louder, which forced him to walk a bit further to see where it was coming from. The laughter led him to the street, where the headlights of a car illuminated his face and hit him. He died instantly. His body rolled over the windshield and fell heavily into a pool of blood that grew larger and larger. The drunk driver slammed on the brakes, got out of the car with his heart racing, knelt beside the boy, and took the boy's hand to remove the photograph. In his desperation, he looked at the photo and saw the beautiful girl making a peace sign with her hand. If you ask the right person, they will guarantee that what I'm about to tell you happened once in the United States. We all know that at 15, you're no longer naive. This is a very modern, sociable boy who manages part of his social interactions through the internet. When he leaves school, he communicates with his good friends via Hotmail Messenger, whether to set up a date to go to the movies, arrange other dates for a party, or simply chat. However, this boy in particular arrived home a bit upset because his best friend had not gone to school that day. Although it's not extraordinary, sometimes we don't see our classmates because they are sick. He noticed that his best friend was online silently, and there was something perhaps a little strange. He hadn't greeted him. He was just online with his nickname. So, he decided to take the initiative. Hello, how are you? Why didn't you go to class? However, the previous event, which was a bit odd and not in line with the usual behavior of someone who always greets us when they see us online, was overshadowed by something that started to get on his nerves. He received a response about 3 minutes later saying, "Who are you?" and then another, quicker message, "What's your name?" Our 15-year-old boy was surprised. "Who are you and what's your name?" Of course, he wasn't scared, and although what had just happened was strange, it wasn't so extraordinary. But let's see. It couldn't be his dad because, let's be clear, it's his best friend. His dad knew him well and had had him at the house several times for dinner, lunch, or even staying overnight. Not his mom, not his older brother, not even an uncle or the maid. It sounded strange. So he decided to reply respectfully, thinking that maybe his friend was playing a prank on him, or maybe it was someone else. However, as we've clarified, he was 15 and not a fool. So he wrote, "Who am I? It's me." But the reply he received chilled his blood. It said, "Do you know where I live?" The boy simply replied, "Yes, but with great caution." He couldn't do anything through a computer. The response came quickly, "Why don't you come to my house?" followed by a smiley face. The boy was so shaken that he decided to close Messenger. But the curiosity bugged him, as his friend lived only 5 minutes away by bike. He managed to convince his dad to drive him for more security, pestering high until his dad agreed. When they arrived at his friend's house, to their surprise, they found the door ajar, and when they pushed it open, they were met with a massacre inside. At least they saw the mom sprawled on the stairs with a long trail of blood coming from upstairs. The woman had a broken arm, obviously thrown with force. The dad quickly named the boy and took him out of the house, calling the authorities, in this case, 911. The police arrived, and amidst the commotion, they discovered that the family, according to forensic evidence, had been murdered the night before. What I'm about to tell you happened to a friend of mine, and I want to clarify in advance that he is neither crazy nor has any mental issues of any kind. I vouch for him. Against all the rules of feng shui, which he, like me, doesn't believe in, he had a huge mirror placed at the foot of his bed on the wall above the television. One night, as he recalled, he wanted to go to the bathroom and saw from the corner row. F his eye a collage of distorted, grotesque faces in the mirror, as if their skin had been surgically cut and stretched, with some kind of sinister, indescribable life. All together, one against the other, staring at him. He jumped out of bed, screamed, turned on the lights, and, of course, saw nothing more. As the mind races at the speed of light, he remembered that often the mind plays tricks on us. For example, he knew of a woman who once thought she had a giant cockroach in her room, but the next day realized that the giant cockroach was just a consequence of having the TV on while she slept. Why? Because it was an ad for a cockroach killer, and at some point in that ad, she recognized the so-called giant cockroach in a scene where one of those horrible insects was walking across the camera. The mind can play very cruel and heavy jokes on us. In Not Thick Honey, the border between being awake and dreaming, something out of control inside that we don't understand, he thought that's what it was. With all reason, it didn't take away his fright. His heart raced. It goes without saying that he couldn't go back to sleep until morning. He stayed watching TV and occasionally looked at the mirror with great resentment. He's a very logical person, and like any logical person, he relied on his instincts, on reason, and the mirror stayed on the wall, at least for a time. Later, he came to the realization that in life there are always things we don't understand, and even if we don't understand them, we can't deny that they exist. Maybe we don't have an explanation, but we are forced to move on. And this is the case with this boy, who after a long time will return to the same place and discover the key to the story in the street of horror near the house where he and his friend live. In the yard, there's a school where one can enter directly without anyone requiring them to pay a tuition fee. But if one does, it might be the cost of paying a tuition fee, or rather, a boarding school. That's the point. There's no house in the neighborhood, but there's a kind of cave very close to a forest where visitors can find a series of buildings and other strange animals never seen before. It must be considered. It's very important that if you believe in something, you must have an answer, because it's always better not knowing and not understanding anything. Always seeing the glass half full rather than half empty. Now, there will always be a window open for an escape and never to be trapped.